So today we're doing a basic brake job on the front end of a 2010 Chevy Tahoe. I'm going to illustrate the basics on how to do it. First thing you need to do before you jack up the car is loosen all the bolts. Then you can jack it up. I know I said car, some people give me crap for that, but whatever. Then you can take them off the rest of the way once you got secure jacks underneath. If you try and jack up the car first, then do it, you will just spin the tires and you won't be able to break the lug nuts off. So let me do that and I'll be right back. So now that we have the tire off, you can see the disc and the pads. This is an EBC disc and EBC yellow stuff pads. I put them on last summer, but I'm already down to the wear on the pads, so I'm just replacing the whole thing. They seem to go way too fast. So the next step is there's two bolts back here. One here, one way down here. What that will do is it will release the caliper, and then you can hang the caliper, up there or something. Get it up out of the way. And here's this piece that we'll take off afterwards so we can get the whole disc off. So let me take this off with those two bolts, and we'll go from there. So now you see we got the caliper hanging up there. You can see how far it was pushed out because the pads were so worn down. Gotta love Connecticut and all the salt. Look how rusty everything is already. So these pads should just come out just like this. Nice and simple. You can see under here they're yellow stuff. So pads go in and out just like that. So you can pop these off just like that. You can see there was some left, but it really wasn't worth it. So I'm going with a new company that I put on the back called Max Brakes. They're really good on the backs. They survived a whole year. So we'll see how these do. Next step is to remove this via, let's see back here, there's two bolts. There's one here and then one up there. And that will bring this whole piece right here off, and from there you can take this off and that will just come off by itself, and then the disc will come off. Once we take out, this truck has a Torx bit which I can just loosen up and that'll take this off. So let's do that and I'll get right back with you. So now that we got this off with those two bolts, take out the Torx bit and then the whole disc will come off. So let me do that and we'll go from there. So we got that off. The Torx bit's out. The disc is completely off. I'm going to replace these even though they look pretty decent. The old pads, the yellow stuff, just clogged every single hole. So what I'm going to do, I like to clean up this ring, get all the rust off that I can, and then I'm going to check all the components up here, just make sure everything's in good spec before I put it all back together. Okay, let me clean it up, get the rust off of here, and check make sure nothing's loose, and we'll go from there. So, here we have the brakes that I ordered from Max. It's 96 bucks versus 400 for that I put on the EBC brakes. So, they're carbon ceramic pads, anti-rust discs, just as heavy, not cheap Chinese stuff, come from Canada. You can see how much life is compared to the old pad. They're really nice stuff. I put them on the back. Highly recommend them. You can see how big. They're very big and thick. Not cheap Chinese metal. $96 delivered for the whole front end. So I took that disc, the disc that we just saw, put it on, put the screw back in. Now I'm going to put this back on and then we'll start reassembling. Just do it in the reverse that we just did. Nice and simple. Get right back to you. Now we have to push the caliper back together. So what I take is a C-clamp, put it on the back half, take the old pad that was rubbing against it, and slowly work it in. That way they're both going in together. So you take the C-clamp and just push it in. They make proper tools for this, but you don't have to use them. This will work just fine. Now that we have it all pressed back in, you can see how much smaller it is. Then you can just take it off, pop the new pads in right here, which I'll do, grease up the back halves, and slam it all back together. That's it. It's super simple. It's all just labor when you take it to a shop. Here's a quick comparison of the old versus the new. See, EBC, yellow stuff, only lasted me a year. Stopped great, don't get me wrong. I asked the vendor before I bought them, but apparently they didn't care enough to actually do some research and help me. So I went to Max Brakes, which my coworker told me about, and put them on the rears, and they're great. Highly suggest them. Cheap and great quality. So you can see right here how I knew they were getting bad. There's a feeler gauge. So when they start touching the disc, there we go, focus. When we start touching the disc, it'll make a because they're slotted noise. Not a slotted noise, a slotted brakes. So here's the new ones. This is after 1 year of EBC brakes. I probably could have just changed the pads, but this thing really wore a lip in there. They really ate into this disc. So, and these pads, the amount of dust that came off of them, insane. The dust factor alone to me is not worth it. But, you know, that some people don't care. If it's a racetrack car and you don't care about dust, go for it. They stopped really good. So we'll see how these do, and I'll give you an update. So, brakes are all done, greased up, only on the metal points. Make sure not to get any on the pads or the disc. These, you don't have to clean out of the factory because they're not coated. As you can see, they're not coated at all, and they will not need to be cleaned. You can if you want to. I didn't bother last time with disc cleaner, but if you don't get coated brakes that are not anti-rust, you have to clean them because they're going to come with a lubricant on them to make them not rust before you buy them. So this is all done, put back together, all brand new. I'm going to do the other side and take it for a spin.